Peace be with you. Welcome to another edition of Let the Quran Speak. My name is Sophia. I'm your host. Today we'll be looking at health and well-being and what relationship it has to Muslims. We'll also be taking a look at the Muslim marriage ceremony and what it entails. Before we do that, we begin with a verse from the Quran. And joining me today is Brother Shabir Ally from the Islamic Information Center. Brother Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Thanks for having me on.
The verse we're dealing with is from Surah 41. It's verse 30. And the topic that we've put to the verse is guardian angels, and maybe you can explain why we've done that.
Yeah, actually the topic is quite appropriate to the verse because it says, as for those who say, my Lord is God, and he remains steadfast on that, the angels descend upon such a person, saying to him, do not fear nor grieve, you shall have the paradise that you have been promised. Mm-hmm. And it says that we are your guardians in this life and in the life hereafter.
Does it actually use the word guardian?
It says awliya, and
okay.
Awliya we have explained on the show in reference to other verses that deal with friendships, and we said that this refers to a very close sort of friendship. One that involves some kind of protectiveness, mm-hmm. and in this case, the angels are basically saying, "We are your guardian angels."
And what is their role? I mean, what is their role in relation to human beings in this respect?
Angels, in this sense, would, in a way, guide Muslims to do that which is right in a situation that will be beneficial for them in this life and in the life hereafter. Steer them away from going into things that may actually lead to their perdition or even to their loss of material benefits in this life. So they act as instigators towards good on the whole.
So they seem to be giving glad tidings or comforting the believers.
Yes, as much as God has given Muslims and human beings in general the freedom to do what they choose, there are two sets of influences working on us all at once. There is, on the one hand, the influence from the evil forces, the Satan and his troops, and on the other hand, there is the guardian angel sent by God to give us that guidance on doing that which is right. So we will get both suggestions. We think of our conscience speaking to us. On the one hand, there is a good suggestion. On the other hand, there is an evil one. And which are we going to pick?
So is that the way that we notice the presence of the guardian angels then? The good conscience? How does it work? Because
yes,
you can't see guardian angels.
Generally, we don't see them, and generally we don't notice that they're here or having any influence in our lives, just as one does not really notice the influence of Satan and mm-hmm. the satanic suggestions. But people tend to distance themselves from the satanic suggestions by saying, that's not me. Whereas the good thoughts we think to be of our very own, that's mm-hmm. really me.
Yes.
But from an Islamic perspective, both are actually, there is, to be sure, to a certain extent, our own inner promptings, our own conscience at work. That's true, and that's acceptable and understandable in the Islamic faith. But there is also the outside influence, both from the angelic and the satanic creatures. Mm-hmm. There is another way in which the angel the angels will be protecting friends of the believers, meaning that at the time of death, when one will be required to depart from the world uttering the statement of faith, the angels will be there not only recording the statement of faith, but also prompting the believer to die with one's last words being, I bear testimony that there is no God but God and that Muhammad is the messenger of God. And there is also the time when the believer will rise from out of the graves to mm-hmm. resurrect before God on the Day of Judgment. According to the classical commentators, this is a third occasion when the guardian angels will be there helping the believer to understand this experience and to relate to that horrible day.
Now, not all angels are comforting presences. Some of them, there's the angel of death, for example.
Yes, in which case this would not be referred to as one of the guardian angels.
Okay.
The angel of death is an angel with a special mandate to take the soul of the believer. But even so, the angel of death that is commissioned to take the soul of the believer will necessarily work with the idea that this is a person that is beloved to God, and whatever sufferings can be spared for this individual will be spared, if that is at all possible.
And how would they relate to non-believers? Do non-believers have guardian angels as well?
Well, God is the God of all beings, whether Muslims or non-Muslims. This promise that is mentioned in the Quran is specifically for those who say, "My Lord is God alone," and they remain steadfast on that principle. The statement is quite general. It doesn't say those who are Muslims alone. It says those who say, "My Lord is God alone," and remain steadfast on that. So which means that it will apply across the board to monotheists more generally. There could be monotheists outside of the Islamic tradition. Muslims may find it difficult to see that or to understand that, because we evaluate the beliefs of others based on the principles that we have come to insist upon in our own faith. But we should think more broadly of the fact that everyone is being judged according to the level of knowledge and information that has reached him or her. And some people might be monotheists, though not the strict sorts of monotheists as Muslims regard themselves to be.
All right, thank you for that, Shabir.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we will look at health and wellness.